the topic for our show this week is weight loss and how to cook to lose weight. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of things during this class regarding food and losing weight. You can see, first of all, I've got probably one of the most noticeable things on my counter here is this big platter of greens. That is one of the key things, I think, in losing weight, is eating a lot of healthy greens. Today we're going to be preparing bok choy. This is a really delicious green. You can eat it raw or eat it lightly cooked, how we're going to be preparing it. I have radishes with their greens on them. I have the Chinese cabbage. All of these, again, are always organic. I have kale. I've cooked kale a few times on the show before. And I have fresh sunflower sprouts. These are, of course, only eaten raw. There's a tendency for people who are trying to lose weight to only eat a lot of raw food. And the inside of our bodies is like, when you think of our metabolism, according to Chinese medicine, it's like an internal fire, okay? And so we need to keep that fire burning nice and hot and strong in order to keep our metabolism burning strong. And if we eat a lot of cold, damp, wet foods, like a lot of raw food and a lot of raw vegetables, a lot of cold things, it dampens that fire. And so when we dampen that fire, then our metabolism isn't as efficient. So I think it's really important to eat raw vegetables for their enzymes and the uplifting energy that they have. But when you're trying to lose weight, it's also important that you eat foods categorized in Chinese medicine that burn hot and dry in the body. And those are mainly whole grains and beans or legumes. So people have this whole thing about don't eat carbohydrates if you're trying to lose weight. And what those are, in general, what that means is to not eat a lot of breads or pastas or bagels, because those are carbohydrates, but they're refined carbohydrates. So all of the bran and a lot of the nutrients have been removed. So basically you're eating empty calories. So you want to eat whole grains. And the whole grain, I've prepared brown rice on the show before. I've talked about buckwheat and bulgur. There are a lot of whole grains. Quinoa I prepared. The one that we're going to be preparing today is one of my favorites, and that's millet. Millet, you might have seen in bird feeders, because it's used, unfortunately, or fortunately for the birds, to feed the birds. This is a common grain in China. Actually, half of the Chinese population, their staple grain is rice, and the other half is millet. And so it's very common in China. It's yellow, obviously, you can see, and it's little round circles. Millet is very, very delicious cooked by itself, and then sweetened maybe with some rice syrup and rice milk on top of it, or a little bit of maple syrup. Or it can be cooked, how I'm going to be preparing it today, with some sweet potato. It's also nice with squash, any kind of orange-fleshed squash, or prepared with carrots. What the millet does is it really takes on any flavor that you cook it with. And so often I like to make like a gravy, a ginger gravy, or something to put on top of it, because it can be a little bit bland. So now I have millet dropping all over the place here, so I'm just going to set it back in this bowl here. But millet is also really delicious combined with other grains. If you cook half rice, half millet, or half millet, half quinoa, or half millet, half teff. There's lots of different grains out there, and since they're the whole grain, the whole complex carbohydrate, they burn really efficiently, and since they're still filled with all the bran and nutrients, you won't gain weight from them. Okay, so we're going to be preparing that as our grain. Whenever I'm preparing a meal, in general, we have a grain, a protein, a sea vegetable occasionally for our minerals in our food, and then a lot of vegetables. So the millet is our grain. What our protein is going to be is a tempeh burger. This is the one that I'm going to be preparing today. This is from Light Life, and it's called Marinated Grill. This is a real delicious one with done in a barbecue sauce. And I've got another one here that I like a lot. This is a tempeh burger from White Wave. Tempeh is a soybean product which is made by fermentation. It's mixed with with a koji product, and then it's fermented for a little while. It's native to Indonesia, but it's a really wonderful source of protein because if you're trying to lose weight, you might want to stay away from eating a lot of animal protein because animal protein can be really high in fat. If you are eating animal protein, to get, of course, really lean protein, or else the fish or chicken. Preferably, again, the chicken raised organically. So along with our millet and sweet potato and our tempeh burger, we're going to have a little nori sprinkle on top of the grain. And this has the nori sea vegetable in it. Sea vegetables, again, are harvested from the sea. Cultures have been forever eating from the sea, but it's just in our culture that we're not so familiar with it. And this one is mixed with some sesame seeds. And so it's really nice on the grain. It alkalinizes the grain to help our blood to stay alkaline, which is essential. And then we're going to have our bok choy, like I mentioned, just lightly steamed. And we're going to have daikon radish. This is a wonderful, strong food. Of course, it's also related to the little red radish, but this is a cut one. This is just how I found it in the health food store, but they can get really long. The white radish breaks up fat in the body. If you've ever gone to a sushi bar and you've gotten raw sushi, on the side of it you might have noticed they'll serve either some green wasabi, that's Japanese horseradish, or else they'll serve grated white daikon radish. The reason they serve it with the fat fish is because it helps to break up fat in the body. When you eat daikon radish like this raw, like they serve it in with the sushi, it breaks up immediate fat that you're eating. So if you might have some French fries or something somewhere that you're or something felt kind of like, too greasy to eat, just grab a red radish or, grab a daikon radish and just eat that, and it'll really help to break up the fat in the body. Now, how we're going to be doing this is lightly steaming it, and that's going to help break up fat that you've eaten a little while ago and it's just already stored in the body. But you can also find this daikon, and it's spelled D-A-I-K-O-N. You can find it dried in the health food stores. Dried daikon breaks up fat that's deep in the body, that's just been sitting there for a long time. And you can just take a handful of it and reconstitute it in water and then just throw it into a soup or a stew. And it's just a vegetable, so basically, you don't even really know what it is. It might kind of taste like a turnip or something like that. It's really pretty bland, even more blander than a turnip. Imagine just steaming up a radish, a red radish, there's not much taste left. So it's a great way to break up fat in the body. And then the last thing we're going to be preparing, well, not really preparing, I always take a quick out here on our pickle, is our sauerkraut. We're just going to have some sauerkraut on our plate. Again, the reason for sauerkraut and the reason for fermented foods is because of the enzymes. Enzymes break up food in the body. They help us to digest. And when most of us are eating processed, cooked foods, we don't have a lot of enzymes in our diet. And so fermented foods really help to maintain that. If you're not, you might also choose to take a supplemental enzyme, which is also helpful. This I really like this one. Again, it's organic cabbage. It's fermented with sea salt, and it's done in like wooden kegs. So it's all natural compared to your Vlasic pickles and some of the other ones that are just, the fermentation taste is just really sped up with chemicals. So you're not going to get the same enzyme activity. Now, if you eat a big fresh raw salad, you're also going to be getting a lot of enzymes. So that's why I think it's important to eat enzymes in your food. What I'm going to do now is quickly get everything cooking, and then I'm going to give you some other key points about losing weight when we're finished cooking. Okay, so to get our millet, all I did was I rinsed it. Grains can be dirty, so I just rinsed it in this pan actually, and then I just poured it through the strainer and rinsed off the water and put it in here. But always rinse your grains before you cook with them. I have 1 cup of millet in here. I'm just going to add my sweet potato right on top at the same time, and I'm going to put 2 cups of millet, 2 cups of water in here. Now I could actually put 3. It's kind of fun with millet. You have to play with it a little bit, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. I might actually add another cup before I start cooking it because I like my millet a little bit wetter. And again, remember when it's at the stove, I'm not going to stir it because it's going to develop little air pockets and I want it to just cook slowly. And then per cup of dried grain, we add a pinch of sea salt. So I'm going to add 1 pinch of sea salt here. Sea salt, again, is how the salt naturally occurs with all the other minerals. So we'll get this going in just a second. Then when we go to the stove, we're also going to simply water saute our tempeh burgers. Okay, so there's our grain and our protein. For our daikon, we'll get it cooking over there too, but all I need to do is just slice it thinly. Daikon is also really nice, like if you were going to make a salad, just cut it into matchsticks or cut it into little shapes and serve it raw in your salad. It's really nice. I caught my finger there. I had my finger sticking out. That's a huge no-no. Always keep your fingers tucked back there so you don't chop off the end of your finger. Okay, and I'm not cooking a feast here, so for our time purposes, I'll just cut up a little bit. And then the last thing we need to do is just cut our bok choy. Okay, again, this can be eaten raw. It's really delicious. Now, I like to cut the stem away from the green. We're going to eat the whole thing, but the stem takes a little bit longer to cook than the green does. Okay? Cut that little bottom part off there. And we'll just, again, we'll make nice little strips like this. If you have more time, you can cut it bigger. If you have less time, cut it smaller. This is really great to munch on. It's really delicious. Okay, and then we'll just cut our greens up. Watch your fingers always. Concentrate on what you're doing. Okay, I think that's all we need to do right now. And so now we're ready to go to the stove to get this cooked up.